Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I have got Raffi Farber. How do you think it's going to play out?
I can't give you a play-by-play as to this happens and then that happens and then the end
No, I
game.
wouldn't ask you to
But
do that.
but what I can say is that we live in an inverted pyramid, right? We were saying this in our last video a little bit, that each layer is built on the previous layer, and the two bottom layers are gold and silver. That's gold and silver I put together, as they are how money was born. And then on top of that, you have the dollar, because we're in the Bretton Woods. We're still in the leftovers of the Bretton Woods system, meaning in 1946, right? America had just conquered the entire world, and Europe was in tatters and shambles, and the United States said, "Look, we'll loan you money, and you rebuild, and we'll loan you dollars." And in that way, the dollar became the reserve currency of the entire planet, and that gave the United States the ability to print more dollars and buy stuff for itself, because everybody accepted dollars. At least everybody's central banks accepted dollars, and that's how every other currency became a derivative of the dollar. And through that, by being the second layer of the monetary pyramid, America was able to amass humongous amounts of resources for itself, and that's how they became the most powerful empire that's ever existed in the world.
And that was
And
right after, I don't want to interrupt, but that's right after World War II
yeah,
when the United States wound up with the lion's share of precious metals on the planet, right?
right.
Not only were they late to World War II and other countries were already bankrupt, they supposedly they were supposed to confiscate it from the citizens. A lot of them didn't give it up, but they had amassed what money is. They and they piled it up, and
Yeah.
then, like you said, the currency was born. The world reserve currency was pretty much, I would say, given to the United States.
Yeah. That it was the aftermath of World War II that did it. Just mechanically, you can see it happening, or how it happened. And so then you had every country that owned some amount of dollars. And what was the way that the United States was able to cement it? They said, "Look, you take our dollars, and you can buy treasuries with them, and then you'll earn more dollars on that." That's a way to outsource their debt, so they can go into a whole bunch of debt and get even more stuff. And then on top of that, like, they guarantee, "Look, if you're worried about the currency, look, we'll give you an ounce of gold for every $35 you have." That's the deal. And then everyone's like, "Yeah, okay, fine." And then that worked until 1971, when too many people started asking for their dollars, for their gold back
Well,
on
as
the
soon as they
$35
did
an
that,
ounce. You know that
as soon as they
that
did that, they repriced it, and the people they gave the currency to got devalued like 30%. Like that, it's such a
right.
ripoff.
So then on that point, you had the scaffolding of the Bretton Woods system, and it still had a core. It had a core of gold in it, which gave it some legitimacy as a real monetary system. And then in 1971/1973, what happened was, they took out the core, but they left the scaffolding. So we have the same scaffolding of a monetary system, because why do we have that scaffolding? Because it's very hard to reprice everything overnight and go back to gold and silver itself. So you have all this other very liquid currency. So you keep pricing things in that, and meanwhile, the dollar exchange rate with gold keeps going higher and higher and higher over time. So it's the scaffolding, it's the empty scaffolding of the Bretton Woods system that the entire world is still standing on. So what happens from here is that, since the dollar is still the world's reserve currency, and every other currency has to stay within certain exchange rates with the dollar, or else everyone's trade relationships go awry, and then the supply chains break down and all that other stuff. So when there are no longer enough dollars to service all the debt that exists, right? Because the way that you keep a fiat system going is you keep the debt piling higher and higher and higher, because you have to, right? Because debt yields interest, which requires more dollars to pay the debt, which yields more interest, which requires more dollars. It just keeps going and going. But if you raise interest rates without printing more dollars, then eventually you're going to have people that can't pay back the debt. They default, causing the next line of default, everything starts falling over. And that's the business cycle. So what the central bank has to print more. But every time this happens, it becomes more and more extreme. It was very extreme in 2008. It was even more extreme in 2020. It's going to be even more extreme the next time it happens. So what you're going to see, just a very broad outline, is something is going to happen that is going to require the Fed to print a whole bunch of dollars, because otherwise banks, international, domestic, they're all going to start collapsing because they're all backed by the dollar. And so you're going to have this huge demand for dollars. Prices are going to go down in dollars for a very short period of time. And then this huge demand for dollars is going to lead to the biggest printing event in history, bigger than 2020, which was bigger than 2008, which was bigger than 2000, which was bigger than 1987. It always gets bigger. And then eventually, I think after this final round, the dollar to gold exchange rate is just going to go vertical. And then you're going to have people taking whatever dollars they have and getting whatever gold they can get. And there's not going to be any more. And then at that point, when the dollar gold ratio breaks down and nobody is willing to exchange any gold for dollars, then the dollar is dead, right? And then all the banks collapse. They still have all the scaffolding of solvency, right? Because they have enough dollars, but the dollar can't buy anything, so they can pass around monopoly money, and it's not going to do anything. That's the end game.
Dollar can't buy anything. Yeah, that's going to be, that's a long, the thing to take away is this could take, and it's already taken longer than I thought, but this could take a while where the dollar doesn't buy anything. You won't need a wheelbarrow to buy bread if it's a CBDC. It's going to be a painful, slow motion train wreck that we're just going to have to live through. Now, what is it? A 0.5% of people on the planet own precious metals. I think that's right.
I think that's right. That's the number I hear. I don't know what the reality is.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Everyone has some amount of silver. Everyone has some amount of silver in their house, silverware or jewelry or whatever. There's some amount. But stackers, yeah, I think 0.5% is around what the number is.
How's that going to work when the government's always going to do what suits them the best? They're always going to be the richest. They're going to be eating caviar when other people are eating bugs. That's how it works. Do you see the government stepping in and trying to do some type of, oh, you can have your gold and silver, but maybe the taxes are going to be 95%? Or, and yeah, there might be a black market, but if you get caught with it, then we're going to cut your head off. Is that happened before?
The thing about that is, yes, it has happened before, but it's happened before in a situation where there are still outside currencies to use. In any hyperinflation that's ever happened, excluding maybe the collapse of the Roman Empire, which was really an endgame for that era, which really did lead to a dark age, and the government just lost all control. Even in Weimar, right, you still had dollars functioning. You could buy stuff with dollars, and then the government could pay its thugs with dollars. So any isolated hyperinflationary incident will still leave the government that is in charge of that area with a certain amount of power. But when we're talking about the end game, we're talking about the end of the dollar, and then we're talking about the end of all currencies, right? And in that situation, the government loses all control. They can say, oh, taxes are going to be 95%, and if you break this law or whatever regulation, we're going to send you to jail. Yeah, but in order to do that, you need to pay people to send you to jail. You need to pay people to enforce all these regulations. You need to pay people. You need money for that. And they don't have any, or they don't have enough. So we're talking about really the breakdown of authority. And in that you call it the Thunderdome, you could call it Mad Max, whatever you want to call it. That's the idea of stacking. If enough good people have enough money to band together and to create local economies, then you can have those local economies interacting with other local economies. Because if you're a policeman or an FBI agent or whatever that's going to try to arrest people for not paying the 95% tax on their gold, but you can't. But your government can pay you in dollars, and you can't eat with those because they don't buy anything. You're going to try to join one of your local economies instead because you'd rather eat than die. So we're talking about the breakdown of law and order, which could be a very terrifying thing, but could also be a very liberating thing, because if there are enough people, enough good people that believe in real law and order, that have enough money to reestablish local economies, then you can have going from bad law and order, which is like now, arrest Trump for hush money or whatever crap this is, and or protect criminals, protect rapists from the people that want to sue them, which is the law and order that we have devolved into in many different countries. You can go from that bad law and order to a good law and order from the bottom up again, for people who understand what real law and order is, which is why it's so crucial to have good people with real money, and obviously with ammunition and with ways to enforce it. But the division of labor is based on money. So the more people that have real money, the more spread out division of labor you can have, and that can preserve the kernels of society that can then take over everything else that has fallen apart. Because if you imagine that you're a Berkeley student who just got a degree in underwater gender studies basket weaving that we talked about, and now you have no job because you can't be employed and you're going to starve to death, you're also going to look for a local economy to see what skills that you can put in, or starve. And so hopefully people like us have enough resources to get this going again quickly before we really do devolve into a Thunderdome.
I'm going to have to read a little bit. I read you just a little bit earlier, but this is the New World Order. Mm-hmm. I'm going through this book, and it's terrifying what has been written from the people that run this country. And just a little bit. The New World Order, that is been talked about by presidents, and it has everything to do with what's happening. And it talks about Jimmy Carter's national security advisor. This is what he had to say. The New World Order will include changes in the family. Homosexual marriages will be legalized. Parents will not be allowed to raise their children. The state will. All women will be employed by the state and not allowed to be homemakers. Divorce will become exceedingly easy, and monogamous marriage will slowly be phased out. The government will become the owner of all the factors of production. The private ownership of property will be outlawed. Religion will be outlawed, and believers will be either eliminated or imprisoned. There will be a new religion, the worship of man and his mind. All will believe in the new religion.
Who wrote this?
That was Jimmy Carter's national security advisor. I can't pronounce it.
Oh, Zbigniew Brzezinski?
Brzezinski, yeah, that's it.
Right,
yeah, he was one of them. He is a bad guy, but it's over and over and over. It talks about the third wave. A new civilization is emerging in our lives. The new civilization brings it with it new family styles, changes ways of working, loving, and living, a new economy, new political conflicts. Beyond all this, an altered consciousness as well. The dawn of the new civilization is the single most explosive fact of our lifetimes. That was Time Magazine talking about Professor Skinner's book, which is just another communist. The communist, the people that are for the New World Order know good and well that the dollar is a Ponzi scheme. It's the biggest one that's ever been on the planet. And I'm struggling making the transition, that transition from, we blow up the dollar, the people that have precious metals live happily ever after. That's something that I feel like a long, awful path with wars, rumors of wars, persecution, and everything in between. I'm pretty optimistic on the end. I'm just not very optimistic on getting there. It's going to be tough to make it through. Do you have a timeline? I mean, do you think 10 years is fair within the next 10 years?
I think it's fair. I think 10 years. Yeah. Look, we can read the, books like the New World Order and fear porn. I'm not criticizing you here. I'm just saying,
Sounds like
that I'm really no. If it gives you an idea of what we're up against, read it. If it's just going to cause you to freak out, then don't read it. I mean, you can decide what you can handle and what you can't. Personally, I can't handle reading all the details of what they have planned for me. I won't dispute that they're trying. Okay. And I'll say, yeah, Zbigniew Brzezinski wants this and the evil people want that. But then again, like, God created the world and he made absolute power impossible, and he's going to help. I can only go to that because if I go too deep into all the evil they have planned, I will lose it, and I can't afford to lose it. I have a wife and kids, and you have followers, and you have your and we have our neighborhoods. Then they're gonna rely on us, and you can say, gold and silver stackers will be happily ever after. It's going to be difficult. I'm not denying that it's going to be difficult, and some of us are not going to survive it. But we're going to be doing God's work, and we can't shy away from it just to say, oh, look how scary it's going to be. We can handle a lot, and we can be stronger than we thought we ever could be. And look, I
sounds
can
like
I
you're
can give you
saying God's in control.
I can just very I can give you the very quick story of Israel, like right after the Holocaust, and millions of Jews were murdered, and we just got out of the gas chambers, and then 3 years later we founded a state. Like, what the hell was that? and how did that happen?
Yeah, God works in mysterious ways.
Doesn't
He was
make
in
any
control
sense.
the whole time. He was
What,
in control the whole time. They were killing millions of Jews. He was in control when the Israelites were wandering around the desert for 40 years.
yeah.
There's saying God's in control and throwing your hands up in there, and I'm not saying you are, is probably not the prudent thing to do. In my
Definitely
opinion.
prepare, and don't say not prepare.
Right. Well, how do we prepare?
Whatever you're good at. If you have a talent or you have an ambition, and you don't have to master everything. Like you said, you're a welder, and you have a lot of other skills and talents. Then get really good at them and find other people who think like you, and get together your local community. Organize your local community. Don't go too far out of it. Find the farmers, find the people who grow food, find the people with different talents, and connect with them now. You want a local economy, a local community, and just worry about, like, 30, 40 block radius. Who's there? Who can do what? Who has what? Then, when things start breaking down, you can rely on each other. Don't try to save the whole world. Try to save your block, right? And then move out from there. Start small.
Is that what's going on in Israel right now? Is communities really starting to form and harden?
Yeah. After October 7th, we came to the conclusion as a country that we can't really rely on the army. So the cities are forming militias to protect their own cities. A lot of the vegetable growing on the Gaza envelope is now out of commission because it's now a closed military zone. So there's more local farmers stepping up. These things happen organically because there's no other choice, right? When supply chains break down, you have to connect with your neighbor or your more local economy in order to get your needs met, because there's no other choice, right? I see that in my life as an individual, and I'm sure you've seen it too, that we feel like at a certain point in our lives, we're forced into a certain direction and we take it. And if we're cowards, we won't take it, and we'll suffer, and then we'll die maybe if we take the wrong path. But if you can just like tune into, I guess, creation or whatever you want to meditate on, if you can tune into there's certain moments in your life where, like, I know what I have to do now, and I'm not going to like it, but I'm going to do it anyway. So that's what we're all going towards. And those of us who can listen to ourselves will do what is needed to be done. And I'm not saying just rely on God to do everything. No, do what you need to do and do it well. But always keep in mind that it's not up to you to do everything perfectly, and that you will have help. You'll have help from the creator of the universe.
Amen. That's a good point. I wasn't trying to freak anybody out with the New World Order. But it is important, in my opinion, finding out what the people in charge have in mind is a good prep. You know, they'll tell you what they're doing. World Economic Forum, you know, uh, they flat out tell you what they're thinking. You know, you're going to eat way less meat. You're going to do this, that, and the other. And you know, they're a bunch of weirdos that are detached from reality.
Mhm.
But this ought to be really interesting. I'm going to make a few videos on it as I go through it because it's not. I think if you go through it, you're gonna realize, wow, this has been a plan for a long time. The same evil spirit that inhabited Mao, Stalin, the other people that crushed farming, is still alive and
Mhm.
well. And if you know their plans, you'll know a little bit more on how to prepare. It'll kind of show you, hey, food might be important in the future. A good water source, maybe. Get to know your community. I've been actively getting out in the community, stopping, talking, getting numbers, you know, of like-minded people. And guys, the YouTube channel, and this goes for me and Rafi. These are communities. This is a place where like-minded come and meet, and I hope you get in the comments and meet other people. I see that happen all the time. Hey, I live here. Oh, I live here, and you can, you know, swap numbers or emails or whatever. And there's going to be a real need. I mean, Bartertown, you know what I'm saying? I want to run Bartertown in Thunderdome. I want to be part of
Mhm.
that because we're going to need it. I really do believe that. Is there anything you'd like to add before I let you go about your day?
About my day. Well, my day's a good one. I like it here. There are bombs every now and then, but you know, I'm investing in my kids. I'm making sure they understand economics. I'm making sure they understand right and wrong, and making sure they don't stay on their screens too long because I see kids of this generation, and I'm like, how are we going to survive if they're just constantly looking at screens all the time, and how are they going to run society? And maybe they're not. Maybe we're going to have to get rid of the phones. So again, invest in your community, invest in your family, invest in what you can see around you, and trust that others in the next neighborhood will do the same, and then hook up with them later. Just stay calm. Staying calm is the most important thing.
I agree. Do you have a certain percentage you recommend to allocate to precious metals? And by the way, I got to give a shout out to Stacey. She's a broker for Miles Franklin. It's the end of the video. It's not what the video is about, but I did want to put her number up there. Do you have a certain allocation that you put to precious metals that you encourage people, or is that
Mm-hmm. Well,
completely up to the person?
it depends. I would say it is up to it depends on the person. Instead of looking at a percentage, I would say take a look at your finances, take a look at what you can afford, and put a certain percentage away, 5-10% a month, 20, or if you earn more money, it could be up to 50. That's a lot. You'd have to earn a lot of money to do that, but just make sure that you always have enough dollar liquidity to handle any kind of crunch that may come up, and that you're not worried or having a sleepless night over I have too much gold and I don't have enough dollars. And you also don't want to be up at night saying I have too much dollars and not enough gold. You want to be in that sweet spot where you yourself personally are emotionally balanced and okay with whatever happens the next day. Just make sure that you on your own mentality is okay. If gold goes down $100 tomorrow, I'm not going to freak out. If the dollar crashes tomorrow, I'll be okay. It might be a little bit disturbing, but I'm not going to freak out about it. That's the number you want to be at, whatever number that is for you.
Right. That's why it's easier for me to think in percentages because, you know, as your wealth goes up or down, you maintain a certain percent, and it's like an insurance, you know. It's just it's
So
over there.
I'd start with 5% and go up from there if you feel you need to.
Perfect. Well, thanks for coming on, buddy. Have an awesome day, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Later.
Thanks, Chris.